everybody, it's Paige Evans, and I'm so excited to share my very first layout using my brand new collection with Pink Paisley called Bloom Street. It has a very spring vibe, and so of course I had to feature lots and lots of flowers. So you can find this cut file in my Etsy shop. I will leave a link to it, and it includes lots and lots of layers of flowers and a couple different styles of leaves. If you zoom out, you can see the entire design, so I'm going to do 2 passes with my silhouette cameo. I'll cut all the squares for these flowers and leaves, move them off the mat, and then put the next set on. So here is my Bloom Street collection. I grabbed all of the pattern papers and I sorted them into piles. There are 5 layers of petals for every flower, and so I grabbed 5 monochromatic papers to create each flower. So there's colorful whites, I've got pinks, blues, purples, and yellows, etc. So you'll see me cut the squares for all of the flowers and leaves. And I am just mirroring what appears on my computer in Silhouette Studio. So if the flower takes up a 2-inch space, I'm going to cut a 2-inch square. If the flower takes up a 3-inch square space, I will cut a 3-inch square piece of pattern paper and then place it on the sticky mat accordingly. So this is a very fast, quick, and easy way to cut a whole bunch of shapes at once instead of cutting the paper, running it through the cameo, cutting another paper, running it through the cameo, so on and so forth. It takes about 10 minutes to cut all the papers and then a few minutes for the cameo to cut out all of the shapes. So it's quick, easy, fun, and I love how the flowers turn out, and we're going to add dimension to the flowers by pinching the petals, but I will show you that. And I designed the inner parts of the flowers to fit on this colorful arrows paper, so I just trimmed a 1-inch strip, mirrored it onto the silhouette mat, and then that's how I get all the different colors of the middle of the flowers instead of punching, say, 1-inch squares. So make sure if you're mirroring this exactly, you're using this paper, or move the center of the flowers to fit in 1-inch squares and punch them from 1-inch squares. I am cutting from pattern paper. I use a ratchet blade because I like having control of the depth, and so I have it set to a depth of 3, a speed of 3, and then I click send, and it's taking about 11 minutes to cut, and then unload it from the cameo, and here we go. I accidentally didn't cut my paper large enough, and so it cut off the petal of one of the flowers, but you know what? I didn't even recut that one because honestly, once they're all layered together, you don't even notice. So I peeled all of the flowers and leaves off of the mat, and now I'm back in Silhouette Studio. I moved that set of designs off, and I'm putting the new set of designs onto the mat in Silhouette Studio, and now once again cutting squares of pattern papers to reflect what is in Silhouette Studio. So I did 1 pass, and now this is going to be my 2nd pass, and then my layout is going to be ready to go, ready to get started, I guess. So this is kind of the fiddly bit, and then once you get creating the flowers and layering them all together, it's really fun and tactile, and just the art and the whole process of creating all of these pretty things is really what draws me to scrapbooking, and it's my therapy and my happy place, and I just love this whole process, but especially creating the flowers. This bottom section is a whole row of leaves, and so I'm just cutting from a bunch of different colors of green pattern papers to create those leaves. Back in Silhouette Studio, I just want to make sure I have everything aligned. I see that a couple of the flowers are nudging over into other flowers' space, and so I just want to make sure everything is aligned, won't overlap, good to go. So it's the same exact setting, so I click send once I've loaded the mat into the cameo, and here we go. 10-12 minutes later, I have all of my flowers and leaves ready to be assembled. So I carefully peeled everything off the mat. Luckily, this isn't a brand new mat, so it's not super duper sticky, but still always be careful when peeling delicate and intricate designs off the mat. I'm using this pink polka dot paper, also from Bloom Street, as the background and I want to do some mixed media on it. So before I start assembling flowers, I'm going to work on the background. So while it's drying, I can create the layered flowers. So I'm using white acrylic paint, I'm watering it down, and I'm using a toothbrush. Do you have any spare toothbrushes lying around? It creates such a fun splatter. You get the fine mist, but you also get large drops. So this is one of my favorite tools. Whoever would have thought it would be a tool. It's pretty fun, so make sure to have a toothbrush in your stash, and I splashed white acrylic paint all across the background. Now I've pulled out my favorite set of watercolors. This is the Pastel Dreams set from Prima. I love how opaque they are. Even these really light pastel colors pop off of my light pink pastel background, which is why they are my favorite. So they're very opaque watercolors. And I'm just picking up all of the primary colors. I've got the darker pink, orange, yellow, a mint blue, and purple. And using a regular paintbrush this time because I don't want the finer mist, and splashing it around. So I will set that aside to dry. And I'm going to clean off my table so that the paints don't get on the flowers as I'm showing you how to assemble them. And now time to assemble the flowers. So I am pinching every single petal of every single flower to create dimension and make the flowers look more realistic. So this takes a little bit of time. You can turn on your favorite music in the background, listen to a podcast, watch Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, or your favorite movie, but just this is a good excuse to watch your shows. And once you've pinched all of the petals, layer them up, largest to smallest. Just dab a little bit of adhesive. I am planning to secure them together with my sewing machine. If you don't have a sewing machine, make sure you use extra strong adhesive to adhere all of the layers of the flowers together. Similar to the flowers, I am going to pinch and bend every leaf, even from these tinier ones, to create dimension and just make the flower or the leaves look more realistic and lifelike. So I'm going on to the next flower and once again pinching and adding dimension to these flowers and using, again, it's not very super sticky double-sided tape roller to layer all the flowers together. Sometimes you can layer the flowers up all aligned. For another look, you can off-center the flowers so that they create more of a star shape. What's the word I'm looking for? Well, just you can either align them or off-center them, and both styles create really beautiful results. So here is the last flower glued together, and then I have the centers for the flowers over there on the left still. Now I'm going to grab my sewing machine and just quickly do a little running stitch through the center. It's going to be covered up by those flower centerpieces, but this helps keep all of the layers of the flowers together. I just prefer this method, but you can also just use regular super sticky glue or adhesive to attach all the layers together. Now I'm grabbing the flower centers. There is a large flower center and a small center, and I think I missed cutting out one large center, but that's okay. You don't really notice in the end. And then I'm just randomly assigning the centers to the flowers and then adding the tiniest or the tinier flower center on top. I will use liquid adhesive to attach these pieces in place. And then I did go back and trim off all of those hanging thread ends. Sometimes I like to leave the thread ends long, and in this case I think it would have looked pretty nice to have the thread ends long, but I decided to trim them up and keep it a little more clean because there's a lot of dimension and texture and colors going on in the background. So my background is dry. I'm going to start placing the flowers and leaves where I think I want them to go. Once I have decided on the final placement, I will come back in with adhesive and glue it down, but you will see me do this. Here's the photo of my daughter Jane on one of her first days of school. We DIY'd her shirt with some wooden beads and fringe, and she just looks oh so cute. And the colors of that dresser behind really matched with the Bloom Street collection. So I used glue dots to attach the flowers in place, just one little glue dot on the back, and then I'm using liquid adhesive to attach the leaves in place and tucking them underneath the flowers. I feel it looks pretty balanced having those flowers and leaves all around. From these puffy vinyl stickers, I'm grabbing the pink Hello title, and then I'm grabbing a couple of the leaves. Just want to add a couple more leaves into the mix to add a pop of color. Pink leaves, orange leaves. I think it really ties all the colors together. And I will glue my photo down with some adhesive, and then for the second half of the title, I'm using these puffy word stickers, the white ones that say beautiful, and I'm just putting them right underneath the photo. So the full title is Hello Beautiful. I love all the different phrases that are included on this sheet. I want to add my journaling underneath this title, and so I'm using a ruler to draw 3 lines first to make sure I like where the journaling will go. And I think it's a good balance to the flowers and everything that's going on the top half to have the journaling here on the bottom. I'm going over the journaling lines with this blue pen, and then the very final step will be machine stitching through these puffy letters to make sure they don't go anywhere anytime soon. Trim off the excess thread ends, and that is the finished layout. I hope you are inspired to pick up my new Bloom Street collection from Pink Paisley, as well as this layered flowers cut file. They are addicting to make and they always look beautiful. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like and comment and subscribe, and I will see you again soon.